Bitcoin has been hitting a rough patch lately. Despite today's rally, Bitcoin is down 23% over the last 2 months. Joining us now is Peter Wall. He's CEO of Argo Blockchain, which mines Bitcoin. Peter, thanks for joining us. You know, a lot of people are looking at Bitcoin and the recent performance and putting it into the category of SPACs, unprofitable tech companies, meme stocks, all the places in the market that seem vulnerable when the Federal Reserve is trying to reduce liquidity in the marketplace. Do you agree?
Hey, Sarah, thanks for having me on the show. Well, first of all, I never want to bet against Bitcoin. It's been, knocked over the years so many times, and it's always come back, and it's always proven its worth and proven its importance. So yeah, it's obviously, it's been a volatile year. In my book, volatility equals vitality, to quote Michael Saylor. So I think that Bitcoin is doing what it does. It's still important. It's still around. Obviously, Ethereum, other coins have had a great year, but Bitcoin has also had a good year. It's had a great, last year and a half. So I would never count Bitcoin out.
What should we be watching as far as what might drive the price of Bitcoin from a regulatory perspective or fundamental perspective into 2022?
Yeah, I think what we've seen in 2021 is going to be what drives the price of Bitcoin in 2022. I mean, from a mining perspective, we've seen this year, the industry go from being essentially teenagers at the start of the year, kind of uncertain of themselves, to a very confident, young professionals in their 20s now, to kind of use an age analogy. And looking into 2022, I think the mining community and the mining ecosystem is really starting to become, like 30-year-olds. Well-established, credible access to lots of forms of capital that weren't available before. And I think that kind of speaks to the sector as a whole. We're just seeing everything mature very quickly. Not only capital markets, but regulators are now taking the space more seriously. So you have Bitcoin CEOs, cryptocurrency CEOs going in front of Congress, meeting with senators, and they're getting attention. They're having conversations. So we're seeing this whole thing mature very quickly. And I think that can only be good for the space.
So Bitcoin price around 49K. What price do you need it to be, Peter, to be profitable as a miner? Is there a level?
Well, you're going to like this number. I mean, our margins for pretty much all of 2021 have been, record margins. They've been, in the 80s. And that's just not for us. That's for a lot of our peers. So we're looking at, a price of, let's say, between 5,000 to 10,000, depending on, our cost of power and a number of other factors. But we are extremely on the profitable end of things right now. And looking ahead to 2022, we're expecting to see more hash rate come online. There's going to be more and more miners adding more and more machines. But margins are still very, very strong. And we're on the, on the extreme end of profitability right now.
I was going to ask you whether it's more difficult to mine Bitcoin right now just because of the supply and because it resets every few weeks, and what that's like for you dealing with that challenge.
Well, it's been an interesting year for miners because, of course, in the middle of the year, we had this kind of unforeseen event, which was, the Chinese banning Bitcoin mining. And that meant that half of the network hash rate came offline, and no one saw that coming. It was expected to go the other way. More and more hash rate was expected to come online. More and more machines were coming online. It was so profitable. But instead, we had this big dip of hash rate. And that meant for miners like ourselves, our margins, continued to be really, really strong, even as the price of Bitcoin softened. So looking ahead, we're going to see more hash rate come online. It's going to continue to be a profitable business, but it'll be a little probably less profitable in 2022 than it's been in 2021.
And what about the sustainability problems with your business, with mining specifically? I know you've been out front in trying to come up with solutions for this industry. Are there any besides just buying carbon offsets?
Yeah, I think that the first and foremost, most important solution is to not use fossil fuels to create Bitcoin. And like you said, we've been at the forefront of that. We've been a very ESG-friendly miner, starting with setting up in Quebec using hydroelectric power. We're also now building a large facility in Texas, tapping into a grid that has an enormous amount of renewables, particularly where we're setting up in West Texas, namely wind, but also solar. So I think miners understand the ESG issues. They are looking for renewable power. Some of them are trying to follow our lead and become, carbon neutral or even carbon negative. But, you know, if you compare Bitcoin mining to other industries, we're still far and ahead, use more renewable power. The majority of power being used to mine Bitcoin is coming from renewable sources. And that's not something that has really creeped through into the popular consciousness so far. But that's a message that we're out there telling, because it's a true message.